Hello everyone. Today we are going to start the science subject, and the introduction to the science subject is already given by Shubha ma'am. And in the science subject there are overall 16 lessons, and these 16 lessons are divided into three parts, that is physics, chemistry and biology. The science question paper includes all the three parts according to their weightage, and I am going to start the biology part of the subject. And biology includes 6 lessons, and these 6 lessons are: the first one is life processes, the second lesson is control and coordination, third lesson is how do organisms reproduce, fourth heredity and evolution, fifth our environment, and sixth is management of natural resources. Now let us begin with the first important lesson, that is life processes. Now let us start the first lesson, that is the life processes, chapter 6. Before we start the lesson, let us discuss some of the general points. The things which we see around us are broadly classified into two groups, that is living things and non-living things. Then how can you decide or differentiate between the living things and non-living things? Generally we have learnt that there are certain characteristics which makes us to differentiate among the living things and non-living things. What are those characteristics are called? Those characteristics which are nothing but the characteristics which are only found in the living things. For example, nutrition, respiration, circulation, reproduction, growth, response to stimulus, lifespan, excretion, and so on. These are certain characteristics which will decide whether the thing is a living or non-living things. If a thing is showing all these characteristics, then we can say it's a living thing. What is a living thing? A thing which has life is nothing but a living thing. But what about these characteristics? These characteristics are nothing but, all these characteristics are visible characteristics. What do you mean by visible characteristics? These are observable characteristics. For example, growth. We are observing growth of an infant to a child, and from child to an adult. So these are visible characteristics. Apart from the visible characteristics, the living things are also showing some of the important characteristics, and those we call them as invisible characteristics. So a living thing will show both, not only the visible characteristics, but it will also show the invisible characteristics. What do you mean by invisible characteristics? Which are not going to be observed by anyone, but they are found. They are being carried by the living things. For example, the molecular movement. The molecular movement inside and outside the cell of the body is nothing but an example for the invisible characteristics. We know that an organism's body is made up of different organ systems, and these organ systems comprised of organs, and each organ is made up of different types of tissues, and each tissue is a group of similar type of cells which perform a common function, and each cell is made up of many organelles, and each organelle is made up of molecules. So for the repair of each cell, the molecular movement is very essential. If there is no molecular movement inside and outside the cell, then we can say the living thing cannot exist. There is no more life is found in the living things. So for a living things to exist, not only the visible characteristics but invisible characteristics are equally important for the living things. So now let us see what are these life processes. All the living characteristics are not called as life processes. Why they are not called as life processes? Then what are life processes? The life processes are those processes which are helpful for the living organisms to exist or to be alive or to maintain their functioning or to exist. Such processes are called as the life processes. For example, I have mentioned you some of the important characteristics of living things. Among these, which are those processes which are known as the life processes? They are nutrition, respiration, circulation. Circulation is also called as transportation. Transportation and excretion. So these are the four important life processes which are very essential for living things to exist. So we are learning all these four life processes one by one in detail in this chapter. Nutrition. Nutrition is the first life process we are learning today. What do you mean by nutrition? Nutrition is the process by which the organisms obtain their food. That is, the process by which organisms obtain their food. So, nutrition is the process by which organisms obtain their food. So, why do they need food? The organisms need food for various functions. It is, for example, they use the food to obtain energy or to build and repair their tissues. So these are some of the ways by which the organisms utilizes the food obtained through the process called as nutrition. Now let us know, do all organisms follow the same mode of nutrition? No. Obviously they don't follow the same mode of nutrition. Organisms vary in their mode of nutrition. So we are going to learn what are the different modes of nutrition that the organisms follow. Basically, there are two modes of nutrition by which the organisms can obtain their food. They are, the first one is autotrophic mode of nutrition and the second one is heterotrophic mode of nutrition. What do you mean by autotrophic mode of nutrition? Autotrophic, the word itself has two words in it, auto and trophic. Auto refers to self and trophic refers to synthesize. Means the organisms which are able to prepare their own food and satisfy their nutrition. Such mode of nutrition are called as autotrophic mode of nutrition. This autotrophic mode of nutrition is also called as self-dependent mode of nutrition because the organisms can make the food by themselves. Such mode is called as autotrophic mode of nutrition. For example, all the green plants and algae are the best examples for the self-making food or autotrophic mode of nutrition. The second mode of nutrition includes heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Heterotrophic mode of nutrition means the organisms in which it is a type of nutrition where the organisms derive their food from the different sources of food. They are dependent on other sources for their food. Such mode of nutrition is called as heterotrophic mode of nutrition. For example, animals, fungi and bacteria are the best examples for heterotrophic mode of nutrition. So, let us now learn more about the autotrophic mode of nutrition. As we know, autotrophic mode of nutrition in which the organisms can prepare their own food. What is that process by which the organisms can make their food? The process is nothing but photosynthesis. Organisms can make their own food by the process called as photosynthesis. What do you mean by photosynthesis? Photosynthesis involves two words, photo and synthesize. It's a process by which the organisms can prepare their own food by using the raw materials like carbon dioxide and water in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. Such process is called as photosynthesis. Here, the carbon dioxide and water are the basic requirements or the basic raw materials for the process of photosynthesis. And photosynthesis can happen in the presence of sunlight. So only the name photosynthesis, where the synthesis of the food takes place in the presence of sunlight. What actually the end product of photosynthesis? The end product of photosynthesis is nothing but the glucose or carbohydrates. This is the end product of photosynthesis. It takes place in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. What is chlorophyll? Chlorophyll is a green pigment. It's a green pigment found in the cells of the leaves, green leaves or green part of the plants. This chlorophyll tissue is important for the process of photosynthesis. So the photosynthesis can take place only in the organisms where the chlorophyll is found. How can you represent the process of photosynthesis in the form of a chemical reaction? Now let us see. CO2 plus 12H2O takes place. The combination of carbon dioxide and water takes place in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll and gives glucose, that is C6H12O6, and along with this 6 molecules of water and 6 molecules of oxygen is also given out. So this is the chemical equation which represents the process of photosynthesis. So it represents, during the process of photosynthesis, it uses 6 molecules of carbon dioxide and 12 molecules of water will give rise to 1 molecule of glucose, the end product. Along with the glucose, 6 molecules of water and 6 molecules of oxygen is also given out. The oxygen is one of the end product given out during the process of photosynthesis. So this equation is very important from the point of exam. Very important from the point of examination. You all must remember what is the equation or how can we represent the process of photosynthesis in the form of a chemical reaction. Now let us learn what is the site of photosynthesis. The site of photosynthesis is the green leaf, because the chlorophyll pigment is found in the cells of the leaves, where actually the process of photosynthesis takes place. This can be observed by taking the transverse section of a leaf. When you take the transverse section of a leaf, you can see the diagram like this. This includes the parts are, this is the upper epidermis and this is the lower epidermis. Between the upper and lower epidermis, there is a ground tissue. This ground tissue includes some elongated cells and some the oval cells. The elongated cells and oval cells are nothing but the parenchyma cells. The elongated cells are called as palisade tissue, and the oval or the circular cells are known as the ground tissue. You can observe in each cell some of the rounded structures. These are nothing but the chloroplast. Chloroplast is nothing but the chlorophyll containing organelle. So these chloroplasts are the dark spots which are seen in the cells are nothing but the chloroplast. These are the sites where the photosynthesis takes place, and the palisade tissue and the ground tissue together makes the mesophyll tissue. This part of the leaf is called as mesophyll tissue. So the process of photosynthesis takes place in the mesophyll tissue of the leaf. Is that clear? We know that carbon dioxide and water are the two important raw materials for the process of photosynthesis. So the plant needs carbon dioxide and water for the process of photosynthesis. Now let us learn how does a plant gets these two raw materials. Water is found in the soil. It is found in the soil. So plant gets water from the soil through the roots. Roots absorb water and minerals. And provides to the plant. What about the carbon dioxide? How a plant gets carbon dioxide? The carbon dioxide is a component of air. So the plant gets carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. How does it enters into the plant? It enters to the plant through a tiny pores in the leaves. Those tiny pores are called as stomata. Carbon dioxide enters into the plant through the tiny pores found on the surface of the leaf. Those are known as stomata. Where actually these stomata are found? Stomata are found on the either upper or lower epidermis of the plants depending on the habitat of the plants. Now let us know the structure of the stomata. The structure of stomata includes two guard cells and surrounded by the epidermal cells. The guard cells have the dark spots on them. Those are called as plastids or the chloroplast. And the stomata has a small opening that is called a stoma or stomatal pore. Now we know that how carbon dioxide enters into the stomata. It is due to the opening and closing of the stomata. How the opening and closing of the stomata is regulated? The opening and closing of the stomata is regulated by the guard cells. When the guard cells absorb enough water and they become turgid, they swollen up. When they swell up, they open. This helps the stomata to keep open. Whereas when the guard cells lose water, they become flaccid. So this flaccidity of the guard cells makes the stomatal pore to close. This is how the guard cells regulate the opening and closing of the stomata. This is also one of the important questions. What regulates the opening and closing of the stomata and how? So you should remember this very clearly. Is it clear? Now let us learn what are the important events that takes place during the process of photosynthesis. There are three events which takes place during the process of photosynthesis. They are absorption, conversion and reduction. Absorption of light energy by the chlorophyll takes place during the process of photosynthesis. Conversion of light energy into chemical energy and At the same time, splitting of water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen takes place. And the third event is reduction of carbon dioxide to carbohydrates. These are the three important events which takes place during the process of photosynthesis. And this is one of the important point from the point of examination. This point is asked for 3 marks. Now let us learn heterotrophic mode of nutrition. In heterotrophic mode of nutrition, the organisms vary in different heterotrophic mode of nutrition. The heterotrophic mode of nutrition in different organisms depends on the availability of food and the way they obtain it. So, depending on the availability of food and the way they obtain it, there are different modes of heterotrophic nutrition, different types. It may be the Holozoic mode, the second one is saprotrophic mode, and the third one is parasitic. So, depending on the availability of food and the way the organisms obtain it, the heterotrophic mode of nutrition may be holozoic, saprotrophic or parasitic mode. Now let us know what is holozoic mode of nutrition. Holozoic mode of nutrition is a type of nutrition where the organisms obtain the food, the complex food, and the complex food is absorbed by the organisms and then it is digested inside the body of an organism. The complex food is turned into simpler substances, simpler and absorbable form. This type of nutrition is called as holozoic mode of nutrition. For example, human and cow. The second type of nutrition is saprotrophic mode of nutrition. What is this saprotrophic mode of nutrition? This is a type of nutrition where the organisms derive their food from dead and decaying organisms. They convert the dead and decaying organisms into the fluid forms and then they take this fluid form as their food. Here there is no need of digesting the food as already the digestion is outside the body of an organism. Third type of nutrition is parasitic mode of nutrition. This is a type of nutrition where the organisms derive the food from the host. The organisms which is dependent on the host is called as parasite. Host is a green plant and it's an autotrophic organism and parasite is heterotrophic organism. The parasites derive the food from the host. So they deprive the nutrient quality in the host. So these are some of the modes of heterotrophic nutrition. For example, the saprotrophic mode of nutrition, the example is fungi, and parasitic mode is, for example, the lice. Plasmodium and leech, tapeworm. These are some of the examples for parasitic mode of nutrition. Now let us learn how do organisms obtain their nutrition. We shall learn taking the examples of both unicellular and multicellular organisms. In case of unicellular organisms, we are learning the example of amoeba. How does the nutrition in amoeba takes place? Let us see with the help of this diagram. Amoeba is a unicellular microscopic irregular organism. And you know, as it is a unicellular organism, the whole organism itself involves in all the metabolic processes. So, whenever the amoeba comes in contact with the food particle, the pseudopodia, that is the false feet, protrudes towards the food particle and slowly engulfs it. And Slowly, after engulfing, it takes the food into the food vacuole, and inside the food vacuole there are some digestive enzymes, and these digestive enzymes help to break down the food particle into the simpler substances. Thus, amoeba is getting its nutrient. So, this is how the nutrition in amoeba takes place.